No? Hello? All right. I call this meeting October 10th to order at 7:05. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Calvo is absent. Ms. Casal Munoz.
Present.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Present.
Ms. Perez.
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Mr. Tumidor. Mr. Zogby is also absent. Madam President, you have enough members to conduct business.
Thank you. If we could please stand for our invocation.
Lord, we pray for your guidance and direction and benefit of those who live and work in the city of Hialeah. We also pray for late Officer Caibero and his family during this difficult time. The Hialeah family stands with you. We pray for Israel and for everyone affected. Amen.
Amen. Madam Vice President, can you please do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Madam Clerk, can you please do the meeting guidelines?
Sure, for the record, both Councilmember Calvo and Councilmember Zogby are present. All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephones or other similar electronic devices in the council chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via the web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the city council on any item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to 1 appearance before the city council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page. Members of the public may hear the meeting live through telephonic conferencing using any telephone or cellular phone service. A smart device or computer are not necessary to participate in the meeting if you join by phone. All persons participating via the web platform will be muted during the meeting until called upon to be heard. Participation through Zoom requires a computer or smart mobile device with a microphone and web camera. The participant may elect to participate in the meeting using audio only or appear through both audio and video. The video function of all participants appearing through video will be turned off until called upon to be heard.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. This evening, we started off with our clerk reading saying a prayer, starting us like we do every night before we begin our meeting. And I just want to acknowledge and take a moment to pay our respects to our officer, young man, 22 years old, that most of us, I think, were here the night that he got sworn in with his family. It was a really joyous occasion. And we were saying, you know, how young that group of men and women that were being sworn in that night, and we prayed over them and we wished them well. And I think that night, Pastor Mark was here and prayed for them too, for their protection. And even though he was off duty, you know, he's someone that was a brave individual to take on this position like many others have before him. So our hearts go out to his parents, his family, his friends, his fellow colleagues that worked with him in Sector 1, I believe, is where he worked. And our hearts and prayers go out to all of those families and friends that are dealing with this immense loss at this time. We also would like to join together. I believe our mayor gave a beautiful quote on what is going on in Israel. And I think you really put a statement out there that was very profound and impactful. And it's just horrible to see what's going on around the world. And it's so important that, and we have to honor every day that we live in this free country, that we have so much liberty, that we have strong men and women in our armed forces that protect us. And that's something that we don't take for granted. And we pray for those suffering far away from us, but you know, those images haunt us when we turn on the news every day. So our hearts go out to all of those suffering in Israel. This month of October, many of you, I don't know if you saw when you drove up to City Hall, that our building was illuminated in a beautiful color. And that's because we've joined together the mayor, the council members here in the city of Hialeah, and we are honoring October for awareness of domestic violence and also breast cancer awareness. So this evening, we have a foundation that's here, La Pela Esperanza, that's with Roxana Silvera, that always does great work in the community and helps many women that are suffering through relationships of domestic violence and helps their children, give them a foundation to have a fresh new start. And we wanted to honor this foundation and honor today as October the 10th, Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Hialeah. And we wanted to give the foundation a proclamation, and we would like to go downstairs and take a photo in front of City Hall, because we will illuminate certain sectors of the city in these purple and pink colors as a reminder to our residents that the city of Hialeah is here for you. Our doors are open. Our police department has a great department that helps women that are suffering through these domestic violence cases. And we also are joined with any of the suffering and pain and loss of those family members that have had a loved one that has had breast cancer. So domestic violence affects millions of individuals and families across the nation, causing physical, emotional, and psychological harm. It is imperative that we as a society stand united against violence, supporting these survivors and their families, and promoting awareness. And the city of Hialeah acknowledges the significant impact domestic violence has on our community and recognizes the need to address this with the utmost urgency. And October now has been designated as Domestic Violence Month, a time to recognize the lives of those affected by domestic violence and their families, and to raise awareness and the resources which are available to our survivors. The city of Hialeah is committed to partnering with local organizations, law enforcement agencies, and community leaders to provide comprehensive support system, empower these survivors, and foster an environment free from violence. Therefore, Esteban Bobo Jr., Mayor of the City of Hialeah, Florida, and the City Council, on behalf of us, we proclaim today, October 10th, Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Hialeah. If we could please have the foundation come up so we could take a photo and maybe go downstairs, Mayor.
A little.
Una cosa aquí. Bueno. Ya vengan aquí. Sí, mi dirección. Mi nombre es Roxana Silvera. Mi dirección es 4720 Northwest, 85 Avenida, apartamento 300, Doral, Florida 33166. Aunque soy del Doral, pero cuando llegué a este país Hialeah me abrió las puertas. Aquí viví casi por más de 10 años, mi juventud, y estoy muy agradecida con esta ciudad. Me siento identificada, amo esta ciudad porque fue la primera ciudad que me dio trabajo, que me abrió las puertas, y estoy agradecida hoy más que nunca por esta proclama. Sobre todo, esto no es para mí, esto es para cada mujer que vive cada 3 segundos de la violencia doméstica en sus hogares. Cada 3 segundos vivimos, lamentablemente, de que se vive en hogares la violencia doméstica. Y quiero agradecer a ustedes por ese apoyo, por creer en Perla de Esperanza, por abrir las puertas de Hialeah al alcalde Meyers. Muchas gracias, de verdad. A usted, concejal Mónica Pérez, por ese aprecio, por ese cariño que tiene hacia nosotros, hacia la fundación, a los concejales también, por ser parte de esto. Si no hubiera sido por ustedes, esto no hubiera sido posible. Y todo esto va en honor a todas esas mujeres que han perdido la vida por la violencia doméstica. Así que muchas gracias y que Dios siga bendiciéndolos y bendiciendo a Hialeah. Gracias.
What time did you call it? I didn't write it. 5. No, it's not at all. 1:30. Yeah, I didn't write it. Not at 5. It took me out. Yes. All right. One, two, three, four. Okay. All right. So now we're on the. All right.
Okay. Let's move on to the comments and question portion of our meeting. Is there anyone in council chamber or online that would like to speak this evening? Yes. Do you need help? Okay. Good evening, ma'am. So it's your name and address for the record? I think the microphone, Melissa, can you help her out?
Got it.
Perfect.
My name is Marie Rice, RICE. I live at 771 East 47th Street, Hialeah, 33013. I'm here tonight with huge disappointment with our city and your policies that code enforcement does not do anything about. The police officers do not do anything about, that I've called multiple times. And I'm talking about cars parking over the sidewalks. This is totally outrageous. I've been I've been on and off. I was born and raised here, and I came back in 2009 to take care of my parents, and I'm now in their home. But when Mayor Mylander was mayor, and we have a little penny stuck in the sidewalk when it was poured, that he made this a pedestrian-friendly community. And we cannot walk in this city. And I've called police officers because of the cars parked and the fences that are there, and there's not even 6 inches to walk. And most of the time, they don't have the paperwork to fill out to ticket them or whatever they do. We don't have it. One time the officer got upset with me because another neighbor was complaining. It's just horrible. And I am disabled. I can walk. I'm an esophageal cancer survivor. So by the evening, my legs give out. So it's not all the time situation, but I can't go out with the cart to walk my dog. Code enforcement closes at 3:30. I've been to code enforcement also about boats and campers being parked in the front yards. People are living in these campers, and you all know it, and not doing anything about it. And I am so disappointed. And I've, of course, wanted to do this for many, many months, even actually a couple years. And my procrastination has come through that I've had my fill, and I want to see what you can do, because I have a right to walk on these sidewalks, and the police officers are to uphold the law. And then they'll say, oh, well, we're here, for the protection of the citizens. I'm grateful for that, but they're not running to an accident every minute all day. The code enforcement, they drive by all of these, the people that are breaking the law, they don't do anything about it. And I would like something done about it. Otherwise, I will pursue higher grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. You're not alone in speaking of these kind of issues. We've heard that there are other residents that complain about residents parking on the sidewalk. So this is something that we are very much aware of. There's been a few town halls that Councilman Tundidor has had. He's had about 3, and I know that I've visited once or twice when he's had them. And this is something that the commanders, the sergeant, the chief, everyone is very much aware of this. And it's something that we're cracking down on. On the second comment that you said of the campers, that's another topic that came before us. And we haven't made a decision. So I know that you expressed that we haven't done anything about it. We haven't made a decision yet. It's an open discussion and conversation that we've been having. We've been analyzing a lot of the data of what is being enforced with the law that already exists. There is already a law that says that people can't live in their campers.
And they're not supposed to be parked in the front yard either.
So we've
In
been
boats.
analyzing
And
that.
they're over the sidewalks
Well,
even.
they're allowed to park in certain parts of their home as long as it doesn't go onto the sidewalk. So I know that that's something that it also has been happening, that the campers are crossing over those sidewalks or the boats. And that's something that's been under further kind of investigation that we've been cracking down on to see how what we are actually enforcing of the laws that already exist. I don't know if the sergeant would like to speak to you before you leave. He could probably get some information on your area and be more thorough in where you live to target that, because you have a right to go out and you have a right to be able to be mobile on these sidewalks, no matter if you are walking or if you're using something to access that. And that's within your right. And we want you to be safe. We want you to be comfortable. We want you to be able to feel that you could go out and not have to cross into the street. So the sergeant will make sure to jot down that information and get through to these concerns that unfortunately you've been having for such a long time. I apologize for that.
Well, that's the sad part, is that you've had it for so long and there's no action being taken, because it's a yes and a no. There's no gray area
Correct.
and nothing's being done. And it shouldn't be just my neighborhood, because I finally came and spoke. And that's why a lot of people have not come to speak, is because nothing ever gets done.
Well,
and that's
we're
why
going to
I'm
try to
here.
see if we fix that
And-
tonight.
and-
So let's
Through
have
the
a
chair.
conversation with the sergeant. And if that doesn't happen, I'm going to have my assistant get you our office number. And if something doesn't come of this conversation tonight within the next month or two, you let me know. Okay,
And
you
it's
could
not just
follow
my
up.
neighborhood. It's.
No,
all-
you're
Because
right.
I can go 6 miles on this.
It's
If my car is
unfortunate.
not working, I can go to up to 6 miles on this. one.
Yes, I
And-
know.
And it's disgusting that our city has waited this long to do something about it, and that I had to come here and speak.
Well, I
because
gave you
that
your
the
3
people-
minutes. I gave you your 3 minutes.
Okay.
Time is up. So did you?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment. Well, Ms. Rice, was it?
Yes.
So, Ms. Rice, the first time I started realizing that cars parked on a sidewalk were a big deal was when my wife was pregnant. And so when my wife got pregnant, it was actually during COVID, right? 2020, there was nothing else to do but walk outside and try to get some fresh air. And so we would notice that every time we'd be walking, and my wife was huge. She's a little woman like this big, right? Weighs about 100 pounds. And when she was pregnant, she was all belly. So she's trying to walk down the sidewalk, and then you have all these cars parked on the sidewalk, and she had no other choice but to go onto the street, right? So multiple times have we, experienced that type of frustration and that obstacle. So multiple times we've talked about it, right? The mayor, this council, and our police chief, right? And so they're well aware of the situation now. And Chief, and if you don't mind, I don't want to speak for you, but I can tell you that out of the 3 town halls that we've had, a myriad of issues, right? But always top 2 or 3, parking on the sidewalk, right? Over in Southeast by Babcock Park, parking on the sidewalk, and that is a problem, right? It's a problem not just for pregnant moms, but for also vulnerable populations, older populations, right? And so those are things that we want to do. So now, as far as I'm concerned, Chief, and through the mayor, if I may, but if there is a resident that's experiencing this type of issue, what is the best step for them to take? Is it to call the non-emergency phone number? How should they approach it? Because I'll be honest with you, Ms. Rice, Hialeah is a big city, right? Hialeah is a big city, second largest city in Miami-Dade County. The mayor has done, one second, please, Ms. Rice. The mayor has done a lot of great things to be able to expand on the police force that we have today, recording historic numbers for our police department. But we understand that if we have and this is someone who feels very strongly about the same way you do, right? But I also understand that if we place resources solely dedicated for cars on sidewalks, it's going to create other bottlenecks with other issues throughout the city of Hialeah. So I believe that's why the police department has looked at more of a reaction approach type of this to the scenario, right, Chief? Is that?
Correct. And what I suggest and I advise everyone is to please contact us with any complaints at our non-emergency number, 305-687-2525. And we daily issue numerous citations for vehicles that are parked on the sidewalk. In every sector, we do attack areas that we receive complaints on, and our officers are advised about the citizen complaints that we've received. We work closely with the code enforcement department where we write reports anytime that we have issues that are not police related. They're more code enforcement related, but our officers are active in regards to it. But we encourage citizens that have an issue, please contact the non-emergency number, contact my office, and we'll be more than willing to send officers out there to enforce our laws.
Thank you.
And at this moment, Executive Officer Torres will get your information in order to address that area.
Find the citations that you guys have issued. Where is that available?
Public records request, but Executive Officer Torres will be able to tell you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Ms. Rice.
Can I, Madam President, if I might?
Ms. Rice?
First, I just want you to, since I've been on the city council here, this is an item that has been addressed with a certain degree of aggressiveness, and then it gets tampered down a little bit, and then aggressiveness again. This is not the city of Mailander. That ship sailed a long time ago. Part of the product of what you're seeing in the city of Hialeah and it's widespread is the influx of so many people where a neighborhood that was designed for 20 single families, there's 45 single families living in that neighborhood. The city is not only aware, we are creating ways of addressing these issues. By the end of this year, we will bring legislation along with Councilman Tundidon with regards to the RVs being parked and being used for rental income. The periodic aggressiveness that the city has shown on this issue of people parking over the sidewalks, in many cases, that's all we would do. That's all we would do. So what the city has done historically over the 20-year period is that they'll go out, they'll do warnings. They've gone out late at night and people are going to wake up and see tickets in their car and council members. Then the calls will be flooding into all of your offices with regards to tickets and where do I park my car? I'm just stating you a reality. Doesn't mean that we shirk away from our responsibility, but I can tell you that the police department goes out and addresses this issue. The code enforcement department goes out and addresses these issues. Should we step up the aggressiveness? Perhaps. Definitely on the RV end of it, we should be stepping up the aggressiveness because we're seeing something that, quite honestly, if we allow it to continue, become very problematic. I don't think it's chaotic at this point, but if it's not addressed, it's going to be chaotic. And we've talked about it here on the city council. And we will review your neighborhood. We'll go through the area. But when you have, sometimes 3 families living in one home, this is a problem that is very difficult to get our arms around.
And we are living in single family dwelling places. So this is also,
Madam
I've
Rice,
called many times.
We're
about-
expired on our 3 minutes. I apologize, ma'am.
But we
I
agree.
apologize.
We
I
agree.
have
Yes,
called
these
many
are-
times on places and they won't do anything that they're adamantly know.
We're gonna
that
try
there
to
are
fix that tonight.
Apartments.
We're gonna try
And
to
nobody,
fix that.
that's been years and years and years and no one's doing anything. And it's really sad that you would say that Mr. Mylander, his boat has sailed because it is still law
Sarge,
that
can you get her
it is still
information
law
so that she
that
could?
they are not to park over the sidewalk. And it is still supposed to be a pedestrian friendly
I-
environment.
I-
And you have
I
failed. and all
understand
the
that
other
you're
people have
upset
failed
and that you're,
to have
you're-
this.
but we're gonna
upheld.
try to make that right. We're gonna try to fix that tonight. Thank you, ma'am. Have a good evening. You wanted to speak? Yeah, come on up, sir. Thank you. Oh, yeah, whoever wants to come up first. Whoever wants to come up.
Nector Proveyer, 1155
Ernesto Provier,
West
1155 West,
77 Street,
77th Street,
apartamento 303C,
apartment 303C,
Hialeah, Florida,
Hialeah, Florida,
33014.
33014.
Con su permiso,
With
tengo
your
tres
permission,
puntos.
Sí,
I have 3
adelante,
points.
señor.
El primero, que ya lo voy a reiterar, pero de otra forma,
The first one is I'm gonna readdress, but
es
in
la
another way.
necesidad de derecho de los inquilinos.
The right of the tenants
Se impone que se establezcan en todos los casos
that they
contratos
establish in each case,
escritos
written
entre los
Between
inquilinos y arrendadores
between the tenants and the
que
owners
establezcan deberes y derechos,
that have rights,
no solo
not only,
en la parte del costo
not only in the cost
del alquiler,
of the rent,
sino en arreglo, etcétera, etcétera. En estos momentos, lo que existe
in
es-
this moment, what
es
exists,
todo a favor
it's
de
all in favor
los dueños
of the owners
de los edificios.
of the buildings.
El segundo punto
My second point
que voy a tratar es el de los horarios de los parques de la ciudad.
of the hours of operation for the city.
Los
For the
días
parks.
feriados están cerrados. En,
On holidays, the parks are
en
closed.
octubre las piscinas cierran.
In October, the pools are closed.
Este verano no trabajaban todos los días, trabajaban
This summer, not all the days were
Efectivamente.
open.
y no se están aprovechando los parques. Es imposible que un día feriado el parque esté
It's
cerrado,
impossible that on a
que
holiday,
es
the
cuando
parks
más
is
la
closed.
población va.
It's more when the public will be
Entonces,
going.
hay que revisar eso. Igual que en octubre, en otros estados puede ser porque hay invierno.
In
pero
October, in
aquí
other
es un
states, it might
eterno
be
verano.
winter, but here it's summer.
Y el tercer punto es el de seguro de los autos.
My third point is insurance for vehicles.
Las aseguradoras de autos,
The insurance agents,
si tienes un código postal que vives en Hialeah,
if you have a zip code that you live in Hialeah,
te criminalizan, te
it
suben,
criminalizes
te
you.
suben tu seguro de auto por vivir en Hialeah. Si
Your
ha-
car insurance is raised
si
because
hay
you live in
problemas de
Hialeah.
fraude, eso, yo no tengo la culpa. Yo soy un
It's not my fault.
ciudadano honesto.
I am an
Entonces,
honest citizen.
eso hay que revisarlo, porque tú vives en un código que hayan hecho fraude,
If
etcétera,
we live in a zip
quiere
code that there's
decir
fraud,
que te criminalicen y te suban
they-
el seguro.
it's not fair that
eso
they criminalize you.
Lleva pasando mucho tiempo, porque yo llevo
It's been
todo el
happening
tiempo
for a
que
long
llevo
time.
viviendo en el exilio, he vivido en Hialeah.
All my time, I've been living in Hialeah.
Esos eran los 3 puntos que tenía.
Those were my 3 points.
Eso, ya terminó los 3 puntos.
Sí,
Sí, ok. Bueno, dio 3 puntos. De los 3 puntos, el primero fue sobre la renta. Eso ya hay una ley estatal que ha pasado que no permite que el gobierno local haga algo que se llama como en inglés rent control, control de renta. Ya esa ley existe y nosotros como gobierno local no tenemos el poder en nuestras leyes para cambiar eso, ¿ok? En el gobierno local.
pero pueden exigirle que haga contratos escritos.
But you
Eso,
can,
ok, so los contratos es otra parte. Hacer un lease, eso es algo que personas que tienen, vamos a decir, que no tienen el crédito bien,
No me
Se
refiero, no me refiero a un
I'm not
lease.
referring
Me
to a
refiero
lease.
que cuando usted arrienda un apartamento,
When you rent in an apartment,
que se haga un contrato escrito. Ahora lo que hay es simplemente un contrato verbal, que las leyes
right now, there's only a
lo que
verbal contract.
defienden es al dueño del edificio.
Right now, the law is only
No.
defending the owner.
Si yo no pago la renta, me quitan el de esto, pero
If I don't pay the
si
rent,
él no hace los arreglos del de eso,
if the,
es muy difícil que yo lo demande, que o
it's
si-
really
o
hard
si
to
mi
sue
parqueo está
them
lleno de agua.
if
¿qué
the
pasa?
parking lot is full of
Pero-
water.
Nosotros en muchas ocasiones le hemos pedido a personas que alquilan que la única protección que tienen ellos es hacer un arreglo por escrito. Pero las personas escogen cómo ellos quieren atender este tema. Hay algunas personas que alquilan mes a mes y no tienen algo por escrito y no tienen protecciones, por lo tanto. Esto se ha hablado bastante, esto se habló el año pasado, se sigue hablando. Las personas que están alquilando, el que alquila debe exigir tener algún tipo, un documento, un lease. El contrato que estás hablando se llama un lease. El gobierno local no se involucra en esto. Esto es algo privado. Cuando la ciudad hace un contrato en una de sus viviendas, hace precisamente un lease, le prepara un lease a las personas que van a alquilar. La única protección que tiene alguien que alquila es tener ese documento. Falta de eso, está tristemente.
Y si se niega,
Es su derecho, es
su
parte de la
derecho.
ley estatal. Como
hay
alguien
que
que va
cambiar
a
la ley
rentar,
entonces.
como no, la ley
Va a
es,
ser
puedes
siempre.
tenerlos escrito o verbal.
No,
Y
pero
usted
verbal,
como
verbal
inquilino
es leonino, te mata el
pero
verbal.
es parte de lo que ya existe. Vamos a empezar, ese era el primer punto. El segundo es de los parques, pero el tercer punto fue que habló sobre el seguro,
Seguro de
hablando de
autos.
los crímenes, de las áreas, acuerdo del zip code. Otra vez, eso es algo que está fuera de nuestro control. Las leyes de los seguros van por el gobierno estatal igual. Nosotros como gobierno local no tenemos acceso a esas leyes ni ayudar en ese tema. El segundo tema que habló fue sobre los parques. Ese sí es un tema que nosotros tenemos nuestro alcance, ¿no? Los parques ya por el año pasado a este año hemos ya cambiado mucho el horario de los parques. Hacerlo más tarde, abrir sobre los fines de semana. El problema que los enfrentamos con abrir los parques de aguas sobre el verano fue un problema de empleo. No hay personas que querían trabajar para las posiciones de lifeguard, ¿cómo se dice lifeguard? Salvavidas. So, para tener esa posición no teníamos suficientes empleados que estaban interesados en esa posición. Y por ese tanto, entonces tuvimos que limitar los días de ciertos parques, no todos, pero vamos a decir, por el ejemplo, el parque de McDonald's estaba abierto, creo que era viernes, sábado y domingo, pero entonces entre semana no estaba funcionando en el verano por el problema no podíamos buscar personas y ese parque no puede estar abierto sin tener personas responsables mirando los niños que están.
Y los días
ahí.
feriados, ¿por qué no abren?
Bueno, por
holidays.
ley, el gobierno cierra como los bancos en ciertos días feriados. No tengo el día que usted me está refiriendo, no
No
sé.
todos los días feriados se cierran los parques.
Como cuál, como
Cualquiera, cualquier día
bueno,
feriado.
Navidad,
No, todos los días feriados no abren, los
On
días feriados no
holidays.
abren los parques.
por ejemplo,
holidays,
ayer no
parks
abrió
are
el
closed.
gobierno, ayer no abrió el
gobierno-
ayuntamiento,
el gobierno
porque
es una
era-
cosa, pero los parques es otra.
pero el parque
Ok,
está empleado
vamos a-
por el
ya
gobierno.
No vamos a ir discutiendo, vamos a revisar a ver por qué no se hace y si se
Por
puede
ahora-
hacer, se va a lograr y se va a lograr.
Eso sería la
Ok.
razón. Bueno,
Pero por
¿y-
ahora
y
eso
cómo-
es porque no está.
¿Cómo yo puedo llegar a mi senadora estatal? Porque
How can I get to my
la
senator?
ciudad no puede resolverlo.
Would you be able to
if-
give him some of that information? El muchacho que está aquí con la
Sí.
barba lo ayudará. Se llama Mark.
Ok, muchas
Ok.
gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias. Bueno, ini, mini, mini, mo. All right, go ahead. You are next. Hi,
Hi, good evening.
good evening.
My name is Charlie. Is it okay if I give you my address off the record, like in?
Yeah,
public?
no worries. It's okay.
So,
Your last name, please.
Morel.
Put the microphone a little bit closer to your mouth. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Mhm.
So I just want to thank you for, giving us the time. And I just want to say I'm here. I'm a student at Miami-Dade College. I'm a biology major. I work in the Office of Changemaking and Social Innovation. And I'm here to represent my family, not only my family, but my community as well. So we just got notified that, well, first of all, let me mention, I understand all of you. When we come up here, we are presenting so many problems and you have to take these problems at face value and you have to come up with solutions. And I know it's really hard. And I just want to commend you guys for like what you've been doing so far, because I know it's not easy. We got notified that our grandma's rent is being raised to 1,500 in January. And before COVID, I believe it was 950. And every year it's been raised a little bit more, a little bit more. Last year it was 1,000, then it was raised to 1,300. Now it's being raised to 1,550. And my grandmother is living off of a social security check of only $700. And we've had to make up the rest of that. And now we're not sure where that rest is coming from. And I just wanted to say, you know, I love helping people. I'm always trying to help in my community. I have multiple projects that I'm working on right now at school for my community. And I wanted to know, what is the plan for the housing crisis in our city of Hialeah at the moment, especially for the elderly? Because not only my grandmother, but her neighbors as well, they're living off of social security checks. They have their family making up the rent, paying the rent. We don't know where our grandma's going to live in January because we can't pay for that. If she moves in with us, then I'll have to move out. And, you know, working as a full-time student, you know, in a full-time work study, it's hard to support my family doing what I'm doing. And I would love to work with you guys if you have anything going on currently, trying to come up with solutions. I would love to collaborate with you in my job. We do all sorts of stuff like that.
You're doing great.
So again, I would like to know, what are the plans? What is the future of the problem? If you have anything, I would love to know. I would love to help. If there's anything that students can do, if there's any ideas we can bring to you, I would love to do that, because this is something that it's an emergency crisis. It's not only my family, not only having to pay for it, but multiple of my friends have been evicted recently. It's really hard for us. And yeah, that's about it. I just want to know what our plans are and what the solutions can look like.
Thank you so much. We have different options when it comes to housing, right? And the way that we could get funding for that is through the federal government. If the federal government allocates certain funds for us to invest in the city, we're able to build certain low-income housing or elderly homes, which we have plenty in the city. Some of them are called Hialeah Housing. Some of them are funded through the city that we're given federal dollars. We now have a building that's going to be, we had a groundbreaking coming up, I think it was 3 months ago. And I think that building should be done in March, right? We have one of those buildings for the low-income housing. And I believe it's for around, I think it's 800 people that could possibly have housing there. In the future, I would just suggest, you know, reaching out to your state representative, to your local senators, and advocating for funding to come to the city of Hialeah where you live, and advocate for those funds. The mayor has had great relationships with those leaders that represent us here from the city of Hialeah. And I believe this past year, we received in federal funding.
Well, we have received funding, but not for housing. The reality that we're living in right now is when you have a border that's completely open and people are coming, they're going to go to areas where they feel the most comfortable. And South Florida, and particularly Hialeah, seems to be a place that a lot of people could come to, navigate the culture, the language, and that has created a housing crisis. We simply have a situation of supply and demand where the supply is not meeting the demand, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on prices to increase. As much as we could possibly do here in the city to expedite building permits and building opportunities so that more stock is available, it is very difficult for a city like Hialeah, who's a very blue collar city. If New York is having problems with this, if a place like Chicago is having problems with this, you can only imagine what a city like Hialeah has to deal with. Now, you heard earlier someone talking about RVs and being used for rental. That's one of the ways that things get handled, not by us sanctioning it, but that's how many people just figure out, I'm going to address the issue on my own. And in an ironic twist, those that live in an RV are not people that are knocking on our doors looking for government housing. And it's a weird situation of us trying to address this. And as you heard the lady that was speaking earlier, that, she doesn't want to see these RVs. And she's right, what she's saying. So it's a very complex issue. The city has, through its grant department, created some funding mechanisms to help folks with their rent, but those things are, and I would encourage you to talk to one of them before you leave. And maybe your grandmother qualifies. But the reality is those are short-term programs, not meant forever programs. And it is a problem. We understand it. And as much as we could, try to encourage more development, there are others that frown upon that development. But this is a reality of South Florida. It's not just a Hialeah problem. It's a South Florida problem. And, if we don't allow more development, more housing units, we're not going to stabilize the price. And this price will never come down unless something drastic happens in the market that's unforeseen at this moment.
Yeah, I understand all the problems are definitely interconnected. Something that I've noticed, just like, one of my projects I'm working on at Miami-Dade Hialeah campus is trash pickups. And I believe you took a tour of our campus and our SGA gave you a tour of campus, correct?
They did, yes.
Yes, and one of our projects is we're doing monthly community cleanup. Something that I noticed is a lot of the trash comes from homeless people on 44th Street, and it's always the same homeless people. So all of the problems are interconnected. We have trash, but it comes from homeless people who don't have a way to get rid of the trash, but they're homeless because they don't have a way to pay for the housing. So we have all these problems. It's very difficult to solve. And again, I would love to work with you on that problem. If you know, how does the rent control work in this city, Hialeah?
There is no rent control.
There is no rent control? So it's a state?
It's a state law and there will be any rent control, and I wouldn't support any rent control.
Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. Have a good day.
If you want to speak maybe to someone in our grants department,
Somebody
maybe they
raise your
could
hand
get
there.
you some information to help with the cost of rent and
Okay,
allocate.
one of the bearded guys. One of the guys with.
They'll reach out to you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, for your grandma. Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Antonio Lestron. I'm the general manager at Olive Garden of Hialeah, 49th Street, 1350 West. We
Of what of Haiti? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Olive Garden, the restaurant.
Oh, Olive Garden.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
oh,
okay, okay,
okay.
okay, okay.
We have a huge parking lot. And we have three ways to enter into the
Right.
parking lot. So it's two at the front and one at the back.
Okay.
The one at the back, it connects with two big buildings,
Mhm.
apartment buildings.
Okay.
And I've been receiving fines from the city because my garbage, the trash that I got in my parking lot. It's couches, mattress, fenders from cars, tires. Obviously, I'm a restaurant. I don't use that stuff. So I had a conversation with a inspector that he goes there, and I asked him, what's my options? And he answered, well, your option is keep your parking lot clean. And I say, okay, how I'm gonna clean it if I'm not allowed to dump all the stuff on my dumpster? Because if I dump all the stuff in my dumpster, then I get a fine from the trash company.
Mhm.
So what am I supposed to do? I have RVs now parking on my parking lot.
Hmm.
I have 18-wheelers parking on my parking lot.
Wow.
I have a guy in a van that he basically lives there every single night.
Wow. You have cameras that face?
Unfortunately, no.
No. Okay.
Okay, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Get with Carlos and tomorrow we're gonna talk and see how we could help you with this
Yes,
situation, okay?
absolutely. It's
Thank
not
you. I
fair.
appreciate it. Thank you
Yes.
for your time.
Thank you.
On Santana, 5601 West 10th
Yeah.
Avenue. Mayor, thank you for meeting with me the other day. I know we had a great discussion and a powwow on how to, address a lot of the things that are happening in our beautiful city. Regarding some amendments, are you guys gonna open that up for public comments and questions, or we're not doing that? I don't know.
Well,
Regarding,
when we pull an item, if we pull an
11B.
if you could talk about it now, this is part of the,
Okay, no, I'm just asking. That's why.
what item are you?
11B.
Oh, if it, no, it's on first reading.
Okay, all right. Regarding this, Mayor, do you know how much this company EFL Billboards is gonna be paying the city to put these on, I guess, city properties? I don't know where, because it doesn't say it on my end.
And I don't have that information, but I'm sure that when we start debating the item, the council, I'll make sure that we put it on.
Can
the
you open it up for?
Yeah, when we
Okay,
get
thank
to
you.
the item.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we're dealing with the issues with the RVs, we're dealing with even the boats, and, it happens in my area too. I've been talking to my neighbors about it. They're not happy. I said, listen, this is again, this is already a state law that you can't have vehicles over 33 feet, even boats, even over 33 feet. So to kind of put another ordinance on the table regarding the city, it's kind of a waste of time. But yeah, I was just making sure that's not on the agenda tonight, right?
No.
Okay, because I'm a registered lobbyist for that. Thank you.
Okay, is that it for comments and questions this evening? Okay, come on up. Hi, how are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Daniel Godoy. Am I required to say my address?
No,
Okay. So today I wanted to discuss a problem about traffic in Hialeah. To be honest, traffic in Hialeah is chaos. Is a lot going on, especially in the mornings when parents have or want to drop off their children in school. Like, for example, there's heavy traffic in the morning, there's people disobeying rules, there's you name it, just pure chaos. And one of the ways I think a recommendation to solve the solution is probably by putting more traffic lights or putting more police officers in the streets that can lead the cars and help the children cross. And yeah, that's my solution.
okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. If there's a particular street you're interested in, just email some of the council members, okay? All right, have a good evening. Is that it for comments and questions? Okay, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Gabriel Rodriguez. My address is 361 East 12th Street, Hialeah, Florida. Consider that I haven't been around for about 3 or 4 months. I would like to get 2 or 3 points. So I can't stop the time, but I want to keep in Spanish. So you can translate that, right? Sure.
I can translate from English to from Spanish to English.
Okay, that's good. Voy a comenzar diciéndole,
I'm going to start by saying,
cuando ustedes todos corrieron
when you all ran
las campañas de ustedes para concejal, para todo,
for
ustedes
council
hicieron
and mayor,
la promesa
you
de
guys,
llevar a esta ciudad hacia adelante.
there was a promise made to move the city forward.
Yo vivo en la ciudad de Hialeah por 45 años
I live in the city of Hialeah for 44 years.
y les garantizo que la promesa que ustedes hicieron la están cumpliendo.
I promise that the promise that you guys made, you are accomplishing it.
Ustedes nunca van a lograr que las personas o muchas personas
You guys are not going to accomplish
los
that
aplaudan
people
o digan cosas buenas de ustedes.
that will
Jamás.
always applaud or say good things.
Eso nunca va a suceder porque todo el mundo no piensa en la misma forma.
Not
Todo
everyone
mu-
thinks the same.
Todo el mundo no entiende el por qué en algunas ocasiones ustedes están atados de una forma u otra por leyes, por
They don't understand that in some circumstances, your hands are tied due to laws.
por diferentes razones.
for different reasons.
Antes de finalizar, no es una pregunta la que le voy a hacer al alcalde.
One question for the mayor.
Es
Sigue tus 3 minutos y entonces te responde después para que no.
perfecto.
Mm.
Ok. Una de las cosas que están en el comentario, en
One
las
of the
cosas,
things that are in the comments,
el nuevo contrato que ustedes hicieron.
the new contract that you made.
Les puedo garantizar que todas las personas,
I
que
can
yo
guarantee
conozco,
that all the people I know,
incluyendo a los oficiales de la policía,
including police officers,
están muy satisfechos con el nuevo contrato.
are very satisfied with the new contract.
Están muy complacidos y muy satisfechos con todos ustedes
Very satisfied with all of you
y con Chief Fuente.
and with Chief Fuente.
Todo el mundo habla muy bien de usted. Las personas que yo conozco, por
The
supuesto,
people I know
hablan
speak
muy
very
bien de
well about you.
ustedes. Una de las cosas de los detallitos,
One of the small details,
alrededor de hace como un año, yo veía en algunas ocasiones
about a year ago, I have seen in various occasions,
que estaban haciendo trabajos en las calles
they
Yeah.
have been doing work in the streets,
y quien los estaba ayudando, cuidando, era la policía de los State Troopers.
that I saw that the police officers that were there were state troopers.
Eso me preocupaba, nunca llegué a tratar de indagar ni nada. Me
That
imagino
worried me,
que por ciertos contratos o lo que sea, pero me he dado cuenta en este momento
I have noticed in this moment
que ya está la policía de Hialeah, los carros, los patrol, son los que están cuidando ahí.
that now the city of Hialeah police officers are the ones that are
No
taking care of those streets.
No sé si eran contratos pasados, en fin, no sé,
Don't know if it was the past contract or what,
pero lo que era lógico
but what the logic is
era que estuvieran la policía de Hialeah cuidando y cogiendo dinero para la ciudad y para todo eso. Pero
to
bueno,
be protecting the city of Hialeah.
pero ya eso no lo he visto en ninguna otra ocasión.
I have not seen that in any other occasion.
No puedo simplemente, ya para finalizar en este caso, por eso es
Y
que-
ya
I
llegamos
can-
al minuto.
ok,
So,
los felicito por el buen trabajo que están haciendo
congratulate you.
todos ustedes.
I
gracias.
Chief,
congratulate
los
you,
felicito.
Chief. I
Gracias.
congratulate you.
Que tenga una bonita noche. Muchas gracias. Okay, do we have anybody else for comments and questions? Okay, seeing there is none, can we please move on to the announcements of the amendments and corrections to the agenda?
Consent items C, F, and G have been amended, and item PZ8 is postponed until October 24th, 2023.
Thank you. There are no board appointments this evening, so we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. Do I have any council members interested in discussing or pulling an item this evening?
Through the chair.
You said the PZ. I don't have that. Yeah, I don't have it here. Oh, okay. Okay, all right, it's on. Requested?
Through the chair, yeah, it's gonna be.
Yes, you're recognized.
Item M,
Item,
M as in Mary, T as in Tango. W
M.
as in whiskey. And double F.
M. T. So just to review, you said item M, T, W, and double F? Okay. Any other council member?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez, and I have a second by Council Member Zogby. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robis.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The consent agenda has passed except items M, T, W, and double F.
Okay, item M, please.
Proposed resolution approving a contract for services in substantially the form attached with Corcoran and Associates Incorporated, doing business as Corcoran Partners Firm to represent the city or client before the Florida legislator, executive agencies, and other governmental entities, agencies, or departments within the state of Florida in an amount of $3,000 per month for a term of 1 year, authorizing the mayor, his designee, and the city clerk as a testing witness on behalf of the city to execute a contract for services substantially in the form attached and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I saw that we have a couple of these sort of consulting items. I just picked this one. I'm not necessarily familiar with is it Corcoran? Hope I'm saying that right.
Corkin.
Corkin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Corkin Associates.
Yeah, so I was just curious, I know that I think we did some of these last year. I'd like to see, obviously it's an investment and, we try to get the best return on that investment. So I was just curious if we track anywhere, like necessarily, is there a success chart for some of these companies saying, hey, look, hired these guys last year, we, invested $50,000 or whatever it may be. And, they were able to secure us, these grants or these, state fundings, or they lobbied on behalf of these bills. I guess just kind of like on the back end of it, are we doing that due diligence to make sure that, when we come back now and we renew some of these, or I don't know if some of these are new, we're spending that money wisely. And the other part of that question was, is there some sort of way that we can maybe sit down, I guess, like on an individual basis with some of these consulting groups after these things are approved, just so that we have that follow through and, we're able to kind of lay out our vision of what are some of the things that we should be asking for, some of the things we should be lobbying for. Obviously, I think the agreement itself, I was looking through it, it's a little short. So it really leaves it, I think, open-ended in terms of what their obligation is going to be and how many bills they're going to be advocating for, or how many requests for funding they're going to be asking for. So that was my curiosity on this issue.
Councilmember, the answer is yes to your questions. We meet with them periodically, before, during, and after session. The 3 lobbying contracts last year, or let me just kind of on the Tallahassee end, involving Corcoran Consulting and Sun City Strategies, netted the city $8.4 million in revenue from the state of Florida, which is really a record number. And we have expectations. We've already met. We not only meet with the lobbying team, we also meet with the legislative members to coordinate the items that we're going to be asking for, the appropriations, and any laws that we might be pursuing that are beneficial to the city. So the answer is yes on all fronts, and it's an ongoing conversation with them during session.
Great. And so for the second part of that, would we be able to, I guess, meet with some of these, it doesn't have to be all of them, but I guess just to understand what they're necessarily advocating for. And I just love to learn more. I mean, obviously, I know we have a great legislative team. I guess I want to see where, these guys fill in some of the gaps, so how they kind of share that balance at the state level, at the federal level. I think it's quite interesting, this world of lobbying that the city kind of gets into and its role. I think in the past, we've talked about, role of some of these other organizations like the League of Cities or the Florida League of Cities, and the role they play. And sometimes they're not very effective. But, we still have to kind of pay some of those dues. So I just, if you can kind of touch base on that second part.
If the council so wishes, we could always ask the lobbying team to come and make a presentation, or it could be done through Zoom or in person. in reality, the lobbying team, not just lobbies, but consults. They have a better temperature of the inner workings, personalities that go on in Tallahassee. And they were very instrumental in guiding us to receive a record number of funding from Tallahassee that had never been seen before. But yes, as I said, the conversation with the lobbying team doesn't start or doesn't end with a pre-session conversation. It goes on during session. And we could always make available, the items. I think we could probably bring before the city council the items that we are tracking and working on. We are compiling a list of about $30 million in appropriations requests. Obviously, we're not going to get them all, but that is something that we're working on through our state senator, our 3 representatives, and then the lobby team helps in different aspects, not just the consulting part, but there are members that they have relationships with that could help the city of Hialeah push the ball over the goal line. And it's been demonstrated the last 2 years.
Okay, great. I have nothing further, but I'll make a motion.
The motion for item M, and I have a second by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Can we please call roll?
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tonidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Item T,
Request permission to utilize City of Boynton Beach bid number WH 22048 annual supply of pipe fittings and accessories effective through October 4th, 2024, and issue a purchase order to Fortiline Incorporated for the purchase of general inventory and hydrant parts in a total expense amount not to exceed $250,000. The funding for the expenditure will be drawn against the Water and Sewers Division Fund Inventory, Pipes, Valves, and Fittings, account number 450-0000-141-001.
thank you. Item T,
Through the chair.
yes, sir, you're recognized.
Yeah, so I was looking through the backups right now. It was kind of short on detail. Wondered if I can get a little bit broader picture of, exactly how many parts we're purchasing and, how are some of these parts going to be used. I think you just made it correct.
Hey, good evening,
Hi, good
everyone.
evening.
Kevin Linsky, Public Works Department. So we have, I'm going to say about 8 or 9 different companies from whom we buy parts, and they're everything that's in the system. So the system is comprised of 103 pump stations. So we have contracts for that. 430 miles of wastewater pipes, contracts for that, and about 530 miles of water pipes and valves and various other things underground, including hydrants. So this is one of those 6 or 7 contracts. And I think primarily from them we buy pipes, but we may buy other things as well.
Okay, so this specific expenditure right now, we won't be purchasing hydrants. It'll be just pipes, or will it be both?
For this contract, we're not purchasing, even though there are hydrants on this contract, we're not
Right.
buying from this company.
Okay. All right, so we'll be exclusively pipes. Or
I
pipe
think
parts.
it's more general than that, but it won't include hydrants, and there's a kind of a list within the contract.
Okay, understood. Yeah, because in the, let's see here. It says, yeah, hydrant parts, accessories, gate valves, check valves, pipe fittings.
Elbows, meter boxes, lids, it's kind of the whole panoply of parts.
Understood. All right, thank you. Motion?
I have a motion. I have a second by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tonidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Okay, wonderful. Item W,
Proposed resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the mayor, his designee, and the city clerk as a testing witness on behalf of the city to issue and execute a purchase order to Jormac Equipment and Consulting Incorporated for the purchase of hydrant repair and replacement, approving the expenditure in an amount not to exceed $600,000 for fiscal year 2024.
Through the chair.
yes, sir.
Yeah, Director, so I think you're back up here. If I can, just to go over this company, Jormac. So I think what we're doing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're increasing by $450,000 the purchase order that we've already issued to them. I guess my question is, how's it gone so far with the original $150,000? How much progress have they made? I haven't received any updated reports on the hydrant. The last one that I have is the one I think was provided in July. I've asked for follow-ups. If you have them today, I'd love to hear. But I think in that report, we had checked 3,042 hydrants. Of those 3,042, 628 were categorized as yellow hydrants with issue, where the hydrant needed an extension or the hydrant nozzle didn't meet NFPA height requirements. Then there was an additional 38 hydrants that were categorized as orange hydrants with issues where the valve was found closed. There was also questions on some of these if the hydrants were even conveyed for city use or if they were presumably private hydrants. And then there was an additional 439 hydrants that were considered red hydrants out of service. The hydrant is damaged in some fashion and the hydrant is not operational. And then there was 20 hydrants that were categorized green. Paradoxically, green means that the hydrant was not found in the field. So all in all, I think, it was about 1,000 or so hydrants out of the 3,000 checked that were having some sort of issues, whether yellow, orange, or red. So I think that at some point is when we approved these $150,000. And I guess really the reason I ask, obviously hydrants not working is a concern. But my biggest concern is that we started doing the study back in November, almost a year ago. And we're still kind of working on this supposedly, but I'll point the clearest practical example to me is like that hydrant that I pass by every morning. It's the closest hydrant to my house. And it's actually was denoted as red. I found it on the list. It was denoted as red. That hydrant's still there. It basically it hasn't been repaired or replaced to my knowledge. So I was just curious how much progress we've really made. I think last time you were up here, we kind of threw out sort of ballpark, hey, in August, we might have some real momentum. So anyways.
Yep, sure. It's a great time to give a broad overview on this. It's an important issue, and I believe the ISO inspection period is just opening up this month, and it goes on basically for a year. The initial report that came out, I guess in July, inspected about 3,040 meters of hydrants. The ones we have concentrated on are the ones that don't work.
Right.
So there are hundreds that if you go up, there's a fire, it will work. You can hopefully put the fire out. There were 439 where they were found not to be functioning and another 29 missing. So that's 459 in total that we've been concentrating on. Since that time in July, we have repaired 276. So it's almost, we just crossed the 60% mark in terms of repair. And if the pace we're going in about 8 weeks, we'll be down in the 2 or 3% of the system where there are some hydrants that aren't functioning. But so we're at the 60% mark in repair of those hydrants. When we got that report in July, we ran it against a CAD system file we had of hydrants. And there were 441 more hydrants in the system than were in the original study. I cannot tell you why last November that there were 3,041 identified. We have located another 400 by using the CAD system.
In addition to the 3,000?
That's correct.
So it'd be
So
about
we're
30
3,400-ish in the system, which is good news because the density of hydrants in the city is actually very good. The newly identified hydrants, the 441, we started flow testing them. So basically doing the same tests on these hydrants that had been done for the 3,000. To date, we've done 282, which is 64%. There's 159 to be tested. And that will take no more than a month. Those will be fully tested within a month.
So out of that 282, that's 64% that have been tested. How many of them have been found to be yellow, orange, or red, or green?
So I only know the out of service ones. I haven't concentrated on the maintenance ones. So I will talk about that, what the plan is for that. We have one for
Okay.
that. Only 4, and I expected there to be more. I expect there to be 30 some.
Okay.
And some of those have been also identified and tagged, and they're being put in the queue for Jormac, the contract that you're referring to fix.
Right. So I guess my question is, if we fixed 276 with about 150,000 or so, and we only have 163 left, why do we need the 450,000? Shouldn't it be about 150, maybe even less?
So would you like the full breakdown of everything the hydrants have
I love that.
cost to
actually. Yeah,
date?
that'd be great.
Because we haven't talked about kind of all of them. So
Right.
the original contract was for just over maybe $440,000 was to establish what the condition was within the
Right.
system. We are also spending with Jormac. They're doing 2 types of repairs in the field. And keep in mind the total number of hydrants they are likely to either fix or replace is bordering on 500 right now in total. They're averaging about $450 when they do a repair, and it's nearly 10 times that when they do a full replacement. They have to dig out in all directions, cut the pipes, bring in a hydrant. So it's a little hard to know until we've gone through all the system how many we're actually going to replace, because the replacements are really driving a lot of the cost at $4,500 a replacement. Right now, we had just estimated, not having perfect knowledge, about 80 at 4,500, which would cost about $360,000. And to date, we've already expended over $200,000. Some of that, though, being replacements. So if I had to estimate for Jormac at this moment, maybe they won't cross the $500,000 mark in total, but there's some unknowns and we didn't know what we were going to find among the 441. So we chose the figure of 600,000.
Okay. So my understanding is that what we've really done with those 276, the ones that were red, that we've looked after, those were, I don't want to use the word minor, but they were a lot simpler of a fix. And essentially the 163 that remain, these are more in the category, like you said, the 80 that might require full replacements, like you're saying, 10 times the cost. Is that an accurate representation?
I'd say the 276 that have been fixed were a pretty fair representation. Certainly the first 100 of the 276 that were fixed were the low hanging fruit. They really were ones that were easier. But since that time, pretty much all of them have significant issues. So, and maybe we've done to date 25 to 30 replacements.
Okay. When we're replacing, are we picking like a set manufacturer for these? Because I think one of the concerns is we do have various brands, right? I mean, the city's been around a long time. Are we sticking to a brand? Are we kind of just whatever's available? I mean, what's kind of like the strategy?
So there are, I guess, 3 major manufacturers that kind of exist in the city, and they span the decades. Some of these are 60, 70 years old.
Right.
So the ones for which we can no longer buy any parts, and there's a subset of those, we know they have to be replaced. We're using a particular brand. I think it might be called American.
Okay.
And that's the predominant hydrant I think we're purchasing at the moment. And those hydrants themselves, outside of the over $4,000 to install them, they can cost $4,000 a piece.
Right.
So they're really driving the cost of most of this issue.
Yeah, are those the, I think you said Ameri, those Kennedy, the Kennedy brand?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. So one thing I noticed is, for example, some of these hydrants that, I see just driving around the city, some of them have like a little ring that says, no service or out of service. And those are always, not painted. And then I've seen a lot of other ones that are not painted. They're on the chart as though they've been checked. They come back as in op, but they don't have the little ring that say out of service. Is there any like rhyme or reason for that? Or is it just whoever inspects it, if they're meticulous about putting the little ring, or how does that work?
Well, they're supposed to put the ring on it if it fails inspection, was out of service.
Right.
That was
Like
the
for
intent.
example, the one next to my house, it's, red, not out of service, but it didn't have the little ring. But
So
like 2 blocks down, it does.
yeah,
kind of-
yours is fixed. So I don't know what
Oh, you were able to fix it?
it has been fixed.
Okay.
So I don't know the date. I actually asked the date, didn't get that, but we just looked it up on the report and was repaired.
Okay, yeah, if I can have the updated report, because again, I'm working off data back from, I think, May is the last information that I have. I have asked for it. And in any event, let's kind of wrap up here. The other little thing is I noticed that, for example, in some of these like major arteries, I see like the little blue light right in front of the hydrant. My understanding is that at nighttime, it makes it a lot easier as the fire truck is rolling down the street with their headlights, they're able to kind of see exactly where the hydrants are. I would assume that as part of this whole process, you would have started seeing some of these lights where they're missing in a lot of places, especially the residential areas. But I haven't seen that to date. I've just seen the painting of the hydrants. So I wondered if we're going to go back on the back end and put those, or if we plan on not putting them, or what the thinking was.
So you're going to see 2 more contracts that involve hydrants, probably this month. Contract number 1 has to do with, okay, now within 2 months, we'll be down to the 2%. I mean, we will effectively have a system where everything works, but there are maintenance needs. So we're bringing in a company to take over maintenance because it hadn't been maybe properly done the last few years. And they will be in charge of doing 1/5 the system throughout the year according to ISO standard, so that when ISO shows up next time, we're going to be in very good shape. I can see in that contract, because we're going to piggyback it, we haven't fully negotiated whether in that contract they will put those blue markers. But to tell you the truth, we haven't fully negotiated that contract.
Yeah, I think you brought up an important point, which is, moving forward, right? I mean, obviously, look, we have to fix this as quickly as possible, right? But moving forward, we have to be testing these periodically. We got to be maintaining them so we don't incur. I mean, if you combine how much it costs us just to check what we have, plus what it's going to cost to fix and replace, I mean, it's almost $1 million, right? I mean, between the 600,000 here and the 400, almost 500,000 in the other one. So what's the plan, I guess, long term? Are we going to have a unit in our water department, or is the fire department going to take on a role? Is it going to be a contract, a recurring contract?
I'd love to speak for the fire department, but I can't do that. So at the moment, we're going to keep.
Well, the last time that this was serviced and something thorough like this was done was many years ago, right?
Right.
So I think that what we could do is maybe have a report once you get closer to the 8-week mark and just sum up everything that we've done. Hopefully that should be by when? By maybe
Yeah, I would say within 8
start of
weeks, we're going to
January?
be so close to finish that we'll be kind of chasing the last few.
Yeah, and then we could discuss how this whole process went, and we could develop a plan moving forward, instead of making this large investment and waiting till the end, how we could, keep up with it and develop a plan. I think that's a good topic.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a
Councilman.
recommendation, and
Yeah.
we're in discussions to do that. Even the city attorney is kind of.
And something we could sit down with the fire chief and we could talk with
Madam
public
Chair,
works.
if I might,
Actually, it's a procurement
this is,
department.
if anything,
Mhm.
this is a great example of something that we found where water department and the fire department weren't talking to each other.
Right.
And I don't know why.
Well, fire can't work without water, so I don't know.
Clear, but there was based on records that we've seen, numerous requests for information that were very hesitant in coming forward, and that is problematic. I will tell you right now. As we get through this ISO and addressing the issues we need to address, this will never happen again. There will be a maintenance program that will be in place, ongoing. ISO is something that we go, I believe it's every 5 years. We're not going to be in a situation of cramming for a test ever again. And these are things that, whether it's budgetary wise, contract wise, whether it's the fire department overseeing it, but, contractors working on this thing, we're going to make sure that this is an ongoing maintenance program throughout the course of time that we're here, because you just cannot allow this stuff to back up on you in the way we're seeing. So in all actuality, I got to tell you, kudos to Kevin and the fire department for working on this, in a very collaborative effort. I've sat in multiple meetings on water flows and testing and what have you. It is something that we all need to be mindful of, and keep on top of something like this. It's a little head scratching of why it's gotten or even got to this point. But kudos to all of them to working on this, making it a priority on top of everything else that they have to work on, making sure, because this is part of what we are entrusted to do, is keep the security and safety of our residents. And in that is, obviously fire suppression. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great work on their part.
I look forward to the final report soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If the clerk can also please just record, I would like the latest report, right? Especially the one that we're using for today's.
I can hardly hear you. Can you speak up closer to the microphone?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
If the clerk can just record, I'd like to have the latest report for the hydrants, the one that was kind of referenced today. I don't know if there's a date to that report to be more specific.
What report? Which one?
It's, we took the original report that came to us as a result of the study that the council commissioned. We've since taken all that data, rebuilt an Excel spreadsheet, hundreds and thousands of lines long. That is the report. So we just run queries on the report, but I certainly can provide that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, you got that? Perfect. Do I have a motion for item W? I have a motion by Councilman Tundidor and I have a second by Councilwoman Casaus Munoz. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casaus Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Item double F, please.
Proposed resolution establishing a temporary 13-member Centennial Committee appointed by the mayor to plan for the city of Hialeah's 100th anniversary and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Madam President, we have, we've started kind of like compiling information and trying to set a framework for what would the 100th year anniversary look like. You're all going to be participants. For now, this committee is made up primarily of a lot of staff in the city. We asked that Councilwoman Casaus Munoz lead the effort. The way I envision this committee to operate is that we're going to give it room to expand, to allow others in the community. We want the community to take ownership of what a 100th year anniversary celebration could look like. I could tell you that we're actively working with schools. I've talked with you about this, Madam President, about the schools creating curriculum during a period of the school year that would speak to Hialeah history, which is, I don't think, taught in the school system whatsoever. We are trying to work with others that may have volumes of pictures that we could use with our library. There's a whole series of things that we're going to try to lay out, but just as a blackboard of what can we start doing, involve our parks, involve our businesses in the city, the Chamber of Commerce, involve the residents to tell a story. We know that, and beyond that, we want to be able to cast a net out to folks that may have lived in the city at one time, no longer live here, maybe living in other parts of the state of Florida. And I know that George and the team is working on creating a portal through our website for folks to be able to upload pictures and what have you. So it's going to be an ongoing process, a work in progress. But I think it's something that all of us could take a lot of pride. And, hopefully this committee, along with a broader group of folks that's working, could start planning different activities throughout the whole year to celebrate the city and really, you only turn 100 once. And so we want to take full advantage of that opportunity to tell the story of the city, share it with everybody. And, we're not going to limit the imagination unless the checkbook can't cover it. And then we'll have to figure something else out. But I also think there's going to be some great sponsor opportunities for this 100th year celebration. So that's really the proposal, the resolution. And like I said, it'll be open-ended so that we could create more opportunities for others to participate.
Through the chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Yeah, Mayor, look, I agree and I applaud you on setting this up. My concern is, oftentimes when we set up these committees, whether it's the historic preservation or what have you, we typically each get, a person that we appoint to that committee to represent us. And so my concern is, although there's some familiar faces or names on this list, we're not necessarily going to have that appointing process, and it is a rather big committee. So I was wondering if that was a possibility where we can at least, have someone there, and that way, each of us, right, all the 7 council members can kind of opine on this.
Yes, as I stated, I expect that all council members are going to have participation, whether directly or by proxy. But what we wanted to do was just create the construct of a working group first to start, which has already been doing a lot of work. They're working on logos and what have you to share with all of you. But yes, absolutely. This is too big of an event for just 12 people to manage, and I want all participation. This is something that, like I said, we only do it once. So the answer to your question is yes. There will be as we start building this thing, and I hope that all of you are going to have active participation in doing the stuff that we'd like to envision, and bring your ideas of other things that we could possibly do. But in just a working group that has a conversation, there's a lot of ideas and a lot of opportunities for us to be able to celebrate the city, whether if we want to rebrand, whether we want to create a slogan, how do we collaborate with the schools, all the stakeholders in our city. I think it really sets up for a great opportunity. And it is massive enough that I think there's plenty of space for everybody to be able to work on and give their, and participate. So yeah, the answer is yes. And not this moment, but it will, and it'll come, at some point when I get to start talking with the councilwoman, because I want to treat this almost like I did census in the county. And that was a very broad group of people that were working in order to come up with a product that then the entire board. And the way we did it in the county was that everybody had their participation. What we need to always be mindful of in some of these formats is sunshine law and what have you. So we'll have to staff it with our attorneys and offer and do it, with the proper notices. but yeah, I think absolutely everybody should be involved.
Yeah, that was my next question. Since it's a committee meeting, it would work the way that all the other ones do. So we would get an alert prior, the public would know, they would be able to be invited, so.
Yeah,
And
think of it in terms of a group kind of setting a working group that sets a foundation. And then we open it up, and I'm not talking about months and months from here. In a short order, then be able to expand and then bring stakeholders. I think when I've gone to different schools and talked to them about the 100th year anniversary, there's been a lot of excitement about wanting to participate. In fact, I just recently had a great meeting with the editor of the Miami Herald, and they probably have vaults of pictures
they do.
that we could collaborate with to use, to tell a story of our city, a mosaic, which goes back further than perhaps any one of us could reach as far as pictures are concerned. So I think it sets up for a lot of excitement that we could, tell a story, especially to a lot of residents that doesn't know the story of the city of Hialeah beyond what they see in front of them, right? But each one of us, I mean, I remember cow pastures and, I'm talking now in the mid 70s, right? But there's others, I'm sure, that will talk about what 60s and 50s, but how do we reach into those that, could talk to us about the 30s and, the 40s? The Hialeah racetrack has a lot of more Hialeah Park centric, but I know they have a whole bunch of pictures that also could be. So yeah, this is going to be, I'm hoping this is going to be huge, and I hope all of you are going to share in the excitement of telling a story.
Within the resolution, though, I don't see like an exact meeting date. Like, is it going to be the third Wednesday of every month? Is it going to be every 3 months?
I think once we talk to each other, now that we know who's on the committee, once we talk to each other to make sure that it would be feasible for everybody, but so you get an idea. My grandmother died at 106 months, and it took us 2 years to prepare her 100th birthday, because she had so much information and so many stories. And speaking about going to the schools, one of the things that happened when my grandmother was 98 was that she had to do a report. My son had to do a report about the person that he knows, the oldest person that he has ever met. So he raised his hand. He says, whoever has the oldest person, does a report, wins. My son raised his hand. He goes, I'll win. He goes, why? He goes, because my grandmother is 98. She's turning 99 next month. He did the report, and we found out so many things about my grandmother that my father didn't even know about his mother because of that report. And it was a report, very simple. What's your favorite color? What did you do when you were growing up? What car did you like? She didn't. There wasn't cars. There were horses. That type of thing. Where did you put your food away? And there was ice boxes, not refrigerators. So there wasn't electricity. So the fact that started and the history that I love of Hialeah Park, even before I worked there, the amount of things that we have found at Hialeah Park in that happened at Hialeah Park before the city was incorporated, because Hialeah Park was there probably about 15, 20 years before the city incorporated. And the fact that John Bernetti Sr., which obviously you knew him better than I did, John Bernetti Sr. did not want to celebrate his 100th year until the city celebrated together, because he said one goes with the other. Without one, you don't have the other. So I'm thrilled that you asked me to do this and to be the chair. I love it. I don't know all the names here. Do we have library personnel here? Yeah. Okay. So I can't see well, or I didn't realize. I just wanted to make sure, because they have so many things.
They do.
And Miami Springs calls me, the historic preservation of Miami Springs calls me all the time to bring us, to give us pictures as well. And in the state, we found a lot of interesting pictures in the state of Florida about Hialeah Park and the city of Hialeah when incorporated. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to everybody giving inputs, obviously, because it's about absolutely everybody that is in the city. And for years, I've been doing senior safety seminars in Hialeah Park for years. And the first thing I do is give the history of Hialeah Park. And they go back
and they talk to their family members and they want to, come back, and the group started growing and growing because I get the seniors to tell me about what was it, now that I remember my grandmother, what was it that you used to do as a child? And that's very interesting, and that's a great collaboration between the youth and the seniors in our city.
I would
Beautiful.
say that I would expect that Councilman Zogby would be very involved because he's got a treasure trove.
Oh, he does, he
Also.
does. And he, shows a little bit.
How was I volunteered to this?
So do I have a motion for item
I
double
just
F?
have one small point. Is there any requirement for these people or for prospective people in the future that they live in the city? I think that would be important. To make sure that, we have people that are living here and, they care about the city and all that good stuff.
So through the chair,
Yes.
Yep.
we have to be very careful, I think, with that, because if Mr. Bernetti would want to be here, considering that he's held on to his park for so long, I don't think we would tell him not that he wants to be, he wouldn't want to, but somebody like him that would want to do this, Victor Benitez, that has been here for so long, that type of history that you have, that maybe they want to collaborate and we would say no because you don't live in the city. I don't,
I think they could collaborate. I'm just saying that the actual stakeholders, decision makers,
right.
we typically do that for other committees like the P and Z or what have you. That was my point.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Well, can you talk closer to the microphone? Yeah.
It's the voice of God. Yeah, no, I was just saying, I think everybody should give input. I agree with you. I'm just saying when it comes to the actual decisions made or, I think these stakeholders, just like in P and Z or some of these other committees, we typically have a residency requirement. I don't know if there was thoughts on that.
I think
Okay,
what
right.
we want to look at this as kind of like a celebration. Obviously, if there's any expenditure that comes along, the city council is going to make that decision. And all of you are not only duly elected, but live in the city. But there are, to Councilwoman Casal's point, Sedano starts in Hialeah and, perhaps, part of the folks that want to be involved would be a Sedano's, right?
Right.
Or Casey and the
sure.
Sunshine Band.
Or
He lives in
Casey.
Miami
Yeah,
Lakes.
yeah. So,
And he came here. So I don't,
So-
I wouldn't, I wouldn't, I think if you're invested and you have some history, doesn't mean that you still have to be rooted here.
let's see how it goes,
Let's see.
but I think the idea is just to create the enthusiasm. I really ultimately would like to see is two things. One, if we could get our hands on archive pictures that people may have in their closets, that people may have stored away that they haven't seen in years and may mean nothing to them anymore, but mean something to us. That's part of it. And the other thing is, if we get young people involved, if we get, because we're gonna turn the keys over to the city, to all these folks. And I don't know if in the past, I know they don't teach any Hialeah history in schools. They don't.
No, they don't.
So if we could start there and start creating, a pride factor, I think that would be a good thing, right? And maybe get them to get involved and come up with some creative ideas and let's just support them. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. I had a motion by Councilwoman Casals and I have a second by Councilmember Tundidor. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank
Through
you.
the chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, you know who we need to get? The historian of Hialeah, Dan Deloach. The amount of pictures that he has.
Is he alive?
Yeah,
Yes.
last time I checked.
Yes.
You better hurry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's like 150 by now.
Where's he living? Is he still?
He lives in
Florida, but North. Florida.
North.
Do we have contact information with him?
Yes.
Then we better
Yes.
get on our giddy up.
Yeah. And the women's club,
Mhm.
first women's club in Dade County.
Okay, Chairwoman, get to
Huh?
work.
There you go. You're busy. All right, moving on to administrative items 11A, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending chapter 2 entitled Administration, Article 4, Purchasing and Competitive Bidding of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Hialeah, to provide for a local business preference, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a severability clause and providing for an effective date.
So this item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of this item? All right, seeing there is none, Councilman, this is your item.
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Tundidor and I have a second by Councilmember Zogby.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes,
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
thank you. Item 11B.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting ELF Billboards LLC, a Florida limited liability company, its successors and assigns a non-exclusive digital media boards franchise in the city of Hialeah, Florida, including the right to construct, install, operate, maintain, repair, replace, upgrade, and remove the digital media boards in and on the locations during the term of this agreement. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on first reading. Do we have any council discussion on the item?
Before you take up the item or before he speaks, I think the city attorney needs to read something.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair,
yes, sir.
there is a typo, we'll call it, in section 4, grant of rights, which I have spoken to applicant about. And while this agreement is non-exclusive and elsewhere says that it's non-exclusive and so forth, there's a particular sentence that says the city covenants and agrees that the rights granted in this agreement to the company are exclusive to the company, and the city shall not contract with any party other than the company for the construction, installation, or operation of any other digital media boards or billboards containing advertising within the city other than those in operation at the time of execution of this agreement. And the amendment is simply to remove that sentence, which is inadvertently there. It should not be there. And I've spoken to applicant's representative about that, and I believe that applicant's representative concurs.
All right, thank you so much.
And also, if I may, there was a question from a member of the public about the consideration. It's an exhibit B to the agreement.
It's an exhibit B, and what was the reference to? What was it? Because the public doesn't have the backups. Where am I looking? Where am I looking? Where am I looking?
Thank you.
Exhibit A, exhibit. Oh, the terms to the deal, yeah.
Just quickly, while we're on typos, there's another typo that I just saw. 16B. Says in the breach of this agreement is not cured within the time period set forth in section 15A above, the non-breaching party shall have the right to terminate, etc. If you go up to 15A, there's no time period. I believe the typo should be that it should read set forth in section 16A above, which is the 30 days. Yeah, well, not here on mine. So,
That is correct.
okay,
16A.
perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
So we're including a time date. It says a 30-day period. Are we including
We are. That was just a reference to the reference should have been the 16A. It is a time period. It's 30 days.
30 days, right? Yeah.
That's just a numerical typo there.
Okay. All right.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Yeah, so just at a high level, Rafael, so how long is the term for?
The term of this agreement that is stated in here is The term of this agreement is, so
I think
it's for a 10-year term. However, there is a renewal period of 10 calendar years upon the same terms and conditions, unless the parties elect not to renew by giving each other 90 days prior notice. And the full term, okay, I'm just going to read it out. The term of the agreement shall be for a period commencing on the effective date and expiring 31st of the 20th full consecutive calendar year immediately following the operational date. The agreement is subject to one renewal period. So unless the parties cancel council member, it's a total term of 30 years, possible if renewed another 10 years. Total outside is 30 years. Initial 20, renewal 10, unless the parties cancel out.
Okay, and then can we break this deal at any time without cost?
No. No, the cancellation is for a cause. For example, breach, the party is not paying, the party's not complying. The party has to comply with laws like the sign laws of the city and the county, in terms of placement and in terms of content and what can be there and what can't and what it can say. So if they don't do that, or if they don't give the city certain publicity, the cancellation is limited to cause. If it is the council's wish through vote of the council to add a termination for convenience, the council may request it or may make that motion. This is first reading.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and then what's the what are the main points of the deal? What's the shared revenue? Or the split, what is that?
The revenue is, well, at this point, I mean, I can read it out to you, but at this point, I would like to hear from the applicant's representative and have them state the business points of the deal. All right? So please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President Felix Lasarte with offices at 3250 Northeast First Avenue. So to answer your question, Councilman Tundador, the deal points are as follows. We will offer the city a minimum annual guarantee of $20,000 per digital messaging board. That's a minimum annual guarantee. In addition to that.
So time out. So just baseline. 20 grand a piece. How many pieces?
20 grand. It's 20 grand for the entire unit. It's $10,000 for each digital face, correct?
Got it.
But it says that we get one digital face every hour.
Correct. And
Right?
then, yeah, so then in terms of the monetary value, after that, you have a 10% that you get of the gross of the operation.
Okay.
That's what you end up getting.
Yeah.
Minus obviously whatever commissions are paid to the advertisers when you buy advertising.
All right. Is it safe to say, Felix, we have 11 locations?
Yeah, so the part of this is that we're gonna have to go out and get permitting. We're gonna have to get permit.
Is it 12 or 11?
12 locations.
We're gonna have to get permits through FDOT as well, right?
Yeah.
So part of that is that we're gonna have to go in and get the permits and, hopefully they all get approved by FDOT. Some of them may not get approved by FDOT. It all depends on how, obviously the spacing works. And we obviously have to work with your planner and.
Councilman, I can't hear. I need you guys to stop, please. I can't hear.
And we would have to work with you to figure out, proper placement. And there may be places that you may not want them there, right? You may say, look, we just don't want them there. And then we got to come back and figure that out. In terms of what you were saying, Council President Perez, I think what you were saying was that the city does get to advertise on these boards, right? So you get a click on these boards.
One face per hour, right?
Yeah,
What
one
we're
face
getting.
per hour, right? But if obviously there's 8 in every minute, you have like 8 different clicks, right? A lot of the times a lot of those clicks are empty. What we do is that in those, when it's empty, we will obviously give the city the opportunity to put whatever projects or whatever it is you want to do. If you want to advertise things for the parks or events or things of that nature, you would be able to put that in there. So in second reading, if you want more clicks, we could certainly, adjust it.
And the terms of the deal, the rent, which is the 10%, can you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Yeah, what that is that these boards, let's estimate that the board generates in sales and advertising $300,000 a year. Let's just say, right? As an example, the city would make 10% of that. So you would make $30,000 on that. But let's say that the board sells zero, right? You still make $20,000.
And it's on the sale. It's not on the display at the 12 locations.
It's per board. So you would be
Per
making
board.
that per board. Yeah. So if you have 10 locations and you made $30,000 on 10 locations, it's, $300,000
Okay.
per year.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think what it's basically the 10% of the net revenue or the minimum annual guaranteed rent that the applicant's representative read out, whichever is greater. So you're going to have at base the minimum, and if through an audit or through the records they provide, or it's more, it's the 10%, you would get that. The city would receive that.
Yeah. And the revenue's audited and we have to provide audited statements to you on a yearly basis. And then if there's a discrepancy, we would reconcile in that time frame.
And as part of, these lights, these billboards, they go updating every couple of years. So this contract is pretty lengthy.
Yes.
If there's new, I don't know, new types of new lights,
Yeah.
new types of design
Yeah.
that they're using for those marquees.
Yeah.
Is that something that the company would update to keep up with the times?
Yeah, of course. We would have to come in and change the actual display. One of the things that I wanted to, but obviously this is first reading, but at second reading, I could come in and do a more robust presentation if that's what this council wants. I wasn't expecting that to do something on first reading, but on second reading, I could certainly come with more information. One of the things that you could actually do, and I've seen it done in other cities, is where you could actually put artwork on these boards when there is empty time. And there is empty time. There's always going to be some empty time. So you could actually put a display and rotate artwork. It could be from local artists. So it'll be kind of, you could actually use these things and you see them in front of museums a lot of the times. So it's, it could add a nice public component to it as well.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple points. Since this is an agreement for 20 years, possibility of extending another 10, I read the attorney's fee provision. It basically says that each side would incur their own fees if there was an issue with the contract. I think that puts us in a risky spot on the city side because we might end up spending more if we had to fight. Hopefully everything's great, but 15 years down the road, if we had to fight this for whatever reason, the city might have to spend more than what it makes under the agreement under the year in order to get any remedy. So I'd like to tweak that so that, if there's a prevailing party, that side would cover, the fees, or the non-prevailing party would anyways.
We could do that, but
Yeah.
but I could say this, that suggestion of doing each side pays its own side
Right.
actually came from your previous city attorney, Lorena,
Okay.
because we started negotiating with her, but because we had a prevailing party, the way you were suggesting. However, I guess it really depends on what the board wants. We could amend it to be the way it is now, which each party pays their own fees, or prevailing party.
Right. Yeah, my concern is, and I spoke to Lorena about that before she left, it was, we have all these contracts, and a lot of times we don't really, hold people accountable, right, on some of these things. So I think that's important. Anyways, I'll move on. The other thing was, this company, the ELF, do they have these kinds of deals in other places? Like, are they locally based?
Yeah, we've done. Yeah. So I'm one of the owners of the company. So we actually have billboards in different municipalities. Like in West Miami, we have a billboard. City of Miami, we have a few billboards. And, we basically operate them and maintain them.
Right. Are the agreements similar? I'm talking more about the price value, the
Yes.
20,000.
Yeah, so actually, let me tell you what those agreements are actually with private entities that have real estate and we lease it out,
Okay.
right? In this case, we're actually leasing it or paying a franchise fee to the city. So the city is actually the one that's making the money.
Right.
And if you see what the values on those contracts that we pay other landlords in other cities, they're comparable to this. That's how I, structured the deal. That's how, when I came forward to the administration, that's how we proposed it. But in essence, it's a deal where the city gets to participate in revenue. Otherwise, if somebody's renting it from a private operator, from a private landowner, the city really can't make revenue on it. So
Right.
it's a revenue generator for the city and in a way to also be able to advertise and promote whatever projects the city wants.
Right. Yeah, look, obviously land is extremely expensive and it's only getting more expensive. So I just want to ensure that, we're getting the best deal, right?
Mhm.
I don't know that 10% is that number, the 10% guarantee or $20,000. I don't know because I've never obviously negotiated anything like this. So I'd just like to see, I don't know if you're the appropriate person or maybe somebody else, if it could provide, comparables. So
Sure.
just say, hey, look, we're getting a great deal or we're getting about, what is right or, we're getting screwed. It's bad. I don't know, right? I just
Okay.
don't know. And the last point on the city content, look, I think that's great because we definitely need something like that. I mean, we have outdated, for example, some of the parks that have outdated kind of banners. So it's good to have this. My concern is, and I'd like to have something in the contract, or maybe this comes back like a city ordinance. I've nothing to do with this per se, but I think it's a bad image when, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just thinking about 20 years down the road, politicians start using these like billboards or whatever, and they use tax dollars to advertise themselves, put their name, their face on there. So I just want to prevent a scenario where that happens. I don't know how my colleagues feel about that, but is it?
Yeah, this doesn't allow political advertising.
Okay. So for
But it
example,
doesn't- right,
if I say like, happy 4th of July, right? Is that a political advertising and put my face and picture up there? Or, that's what I'm saying, we're
Right.
gonna put likeness of an elected or something like that. I'd like to keep it just, hey, we have, this event coming up, or we have, this activity. I'd like to keep it, very, I don't know what the right term would be, but just non-political.
Events or public service
Yeah,
messages.
exactly.
Through the chair.
1 second, please. I think the city attorney had something to add, Rafael, if you may.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is an advertising content, it's E, but I'd like to respond to the Councilman Calvo's attorney's fee point, which is an excellent point. Yet in prior research on this topic, which I happen to have conducted, a lot of times cities don't want to include the prevailing parties because in case the developer, for lack of a better word, wins, they usually have a mega firm, and then the city has to end up funding that. So in some other cities, they've used the phrase that if the city prevails, that the city will be able to recover its attorney's fees and have limited it to the city. But courts in one or two decisions have turned around and said, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
If you're
Right.
going to have an attorney's fee provision
Right.
that says if the city prevails, it's going to get attorney's fees. We're going to apply it to the
Mm.
developer as well. And then you end up funding Holland and Knight, or just for lack of a better
Right.
word, or whoever, and it's going to be extremely expensive.
I guess that's an interesting point because I guess what would be the city's liability? What could we get sued for? I'm just thinking out loud, right? We're the ones getting paid by the company. Obviously, we're just giving the land, we're giving a little strip of land. Not sure what our breach would be.
You're indemnified under the agreement for everything. You have.
Yes, we
an
have a
extensive-
full,
you have a
we
very
have an
robust-
extensive.
Yeah,
You have a robust
Right, I saw
indemnity
the-
agreement.
There's like an advertising insurance. I didn't even know that was a thing. It's like $1 million content insurance.
Right. So you're from that perspective.
Right.
I guess what you're describing is if, the city has to sue the company and you want
Right,
to.
which is the most likely scenario, right? I
Right,
mean,
well, hopefully not. right?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
But-
But you
but-
sell the company and somebody else buys it
Right.
and
Right, but.
they
but
start
let's-
ripping us off.
Right, right, but let's assume that, yeah, that it comes to that. I guess if you want to have, prevailing parties, we could do that. That's up to this council and the city attorneys. I
Based
would-
on what I said, I would recommend against it, but of course, it's up to the council. It's a business point and to the administration.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
And just one last point. Mr. Lasarte, are we talking about the real big, huge billboards that we see on 830, 836, or how big are these?
No, these are not, so it goes up to 30 feet in height, right? The actual structure, but the board size is about 14 by 20 or something like that. The ones that you see on the highway.
14
are-
by
are-
20?
Yeah, the ones, well, the ones that you see on the highway are 24 by 48.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really big.
It's like a
Yeah.
bus.
Oh. They're how much? What did you say the one on the highway was?
The ones on the highway, those are 24 by 48.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
That's
much,
huge.
much bigger.
Okay.
Right.
But so,
Well, I move.
all right, I have a motion by Councilman Tundidor. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilwoman Casas Munoz. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved as amended to reflect the two corrections acknowledged by the city attorney. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for October 24th, 2023.
Through the
Thank you.
chair.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
The statement I was gonna make earlier
Yes,
is
I
that
apologize.
these billboards are going to be on city land. So in city land, we cannot ever do anything with politics. So even if it wasn't written there, we couldn't do anything with politics or campaigning wise on city land.
Okay. All right. New business?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to just advise the council. I had spoken to the administration on potentially bringing forth a resolution, creating a task force to be able to generate ideas to tackle some of the workforce and affordable housing issues that we're seeing throughout Miami-Dade County. We know very well that, development is great. But we also know that the new development that we're seeing today, right, most folks have a difficult time being able to afford that. So if there's a way that we can put industry experts together and come up with ideas and different recommendations for the city council, I think that'll be great. So Mayor, if you're okay with that, I'd like to move forward with that.
A task
Okay.
task force.
Perfect.
You
So
want to
if-
name it a task force?
A task force, yeah, and we'll have it sunset at some point. And so Marbellis, we'll work with you on that and for the details.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I know, Mayor, that you want to head out to go to visit. That's it. We don't have anything else for new business. Can we begin zoning?
Yeah.
All right. Zoning, item PZ1, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyone here that wants to speak on behalf of one of the zoning items, please stand up so that you could be read the oath.
Las personas que quisieran prestar sus opiniones delante de esta junta, por favor, pónganse de pie y alcen la mano derecha.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God, if so say I do.
¿Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que va a dar será la verdad, toda la verdad y únicamente la verdad y que Dios sea su testigo? Por favor, diga que sí, si la respuesta es afirmativa.
Let the record reflect that I have responded in the affirmative.
En el archivo público constará que todos han respondido afirmativamente.
Thank you. So item PZ1,
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow the construction of a single-family home on a substandard lot having a total area of 4,763 square feet, where 7,500 square feet are required, and allow lot width of 35 feet, where 75 feet are required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-499, entitled Building Site Area Required. Property located at 5520 East Eighth Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family district. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of this item? There's someone. Hi. Did you want to speak on behalf of the
Hi,
item?
yeah, I'm actually the applicant, Anthony Lopino. I live in 5880 Southwest 19th Street. I'm here speaking on behalf of the owners, just once again to come say hi to you guys and please ask for acceptance of this variance. You know, there's a not self-created hardship on the owner's end, and they just want to build a beautiful home there.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Rodriguez and I have a second by Councilwoman Casas Munoz.
Mr. Calvo is away. Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor is also away. Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
All right, thank you very much.
Sir, you didn't bring coffee.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. That's my fault, but I'll come by and I'll find you, no worries, and I'll bring in all y'all coffee. All right.
Item PZ 2, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow the construction of a new duplex on a substandard lot having a total area of 6,750 square feet where 7,500 square feet are required. Allow a lot width of 50 feet where 75 feet are required, and allow street side setback of 10 feet where 15 feet are required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-499 entitled Building Side Area Required, and section 98-501 entitled Side Yards Required. Property located at 302 East 17th Street, Hialeah, zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residential district, legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf
Motion.
of this item? You didn't want to speak on the item. You're okay? Okay, so got it. So I have a motion by Councilmember Zogby and I have a second by Councilwoman Casas Munoz.
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tumidor,
It's okay.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Item PZ 3 is postponed, I believe, till October 24th.
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay. And now we have item PZ 4.
Ma'am, if I can quickly record Councilmember Calvo's vote on item PZ 1, please.
Yes.
And Councilmember Tumidor, can I have your vote on item PZ 1, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item PZ 4, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance repealing and rescinding Hialeah ordinance number 2021-008, adopted on January 12th, 2021, granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-161, to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay, granting a variance permit to allow 100% of the units with an area of less than 850 square feet, where 850 square feet is the minimum area required, and only 10% of the units can have an area of 600 square feet. Allow a 7.5-foot rear setback where 15 feet are required. Allow a 2.5-foot interior side setback where 15 feet are required, and allow 25 parking spaces where 37 parking spaces are required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1630.2 entitled Building Uses, 98-1630.3 subsection E2 entitled Development Standards, and 98-2189 subsection 16A entitled Minimum Required Off-Street Parking Spaces. Property located at 90 East 21st Street, Hialeah, Zone CBD, Central Business District, legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of this item?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Zogby. I have a second by Councilman Rodriguez.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
yes, Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz. Motion carries, the item is approved.
Thank you. Item PZ 5.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance vacating, closing, and abandoning for public use of the right-of-way located on the east end of Park Drive and west of Southeast Eighth Court between Lot 8, Block 3, and Lot 1 through 4, Block 2 of the 36th Street lawns, according to Plat Book 24, page 38 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone on council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of this item? I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Zogby. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
You said no, sir?
Yes.
There you go. Okay.
He said yes.
I'm on a
so-
roll today.
It's difficult to hear.
Yeah, I'm
You have
sorry.
to
In a
speak it-
while, he says yes.
I just wanted to.
Everyone's in shock. It's, we're not used to this, so. We've heard it.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
And motion carries, the item is approved.
Thank you. It's giving us a double take. All right, we're on item PZ 6.
First reading of proposed ordinance vacating, closing, and abandoning for public use of the right-of-way located adjacent to west and southwest boundaries of the property located at 701 East 55th Street, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on first reading. Do I have any council discussion on this item? I have a motion to approve by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilman Rodriguez. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries, the item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for October 24th, 2023.
Thank you. PZ 7.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R1, one family district to R3, multiple family residential district, granting a variance permit to allow the expansion of a legal non-conforming use of an existing church solely congregating on the weekend with 28 parking spaces where 76 parking spaces are required for the use of the church, and granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a 79 student K through 5 grade school in conjunction with a 41 children daycare and in compliance with parking and stacking requirements. Property located at 6491 West Second Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family district, legally described herein, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on first reading.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, I just have a quick question. I know that, so it's 28 parking spots, but we're going from R1 to R3. Is it to build additional units? Can you give me just kind of a rundown on this? For the school?
Okay, please give your name and title. Thank you.
I think the microphone is off. I'm sorry.
The Storage Planning and Zoning Official. It's because to have a school, you need to have R3 zoning. R3 zoning is the zoning that the minimum requirement to have a school, an elementary school.
Okay, and that was part of also the ordinance that we passed?
No, that
No.
has always been like that.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So this is gonna be, so this is a church at this moment?
This is a church at this moment
And so this
that
is daycare?
was built with a Sunday school. Then later the Sunday school was converted into daycare. And now they are reconfiguring into daycare and
Okay, but,
school.
okay, so it's a church and a daycare?
No, but the church only functions when the daycare
Sunday
and
school.
school is not working. The church and daycare, the school and daycare operate every day, and the church only operates some days at night and over the weekends.
Okay, got it.
They are not simultaneously using
Right,
the
right, right.
facility.
So it
Yes.
sometimes is a church and then sometimes is a daycare.
Yeah, yeah. They have a little office for the church with two
Got it.
people, but the rest of the time, there's no
Okay,
church.
and then the amount of kids right now, it's 40, so it's 41 kids that they have at this moment in the daycare?
No, it's what they are requesting. It's what they are requesting now.
Plus
Allow
79 students.
79 K through
It's
5 in conjunction with the 41. So they currently have 41. They're asking to increase it to almost 80 kids for the K through 5.
Right, but K through 5 is
No,
separate from daycare.
Is a separate, right?
Maybe they have more, but they're reconfiguring. Maybe they're having less children in the daycare and more children in the elementary.
Okay,
So
I
they
just
are
want to be clear
functioning.
on what it is that we're looking at. So
But
it's
they're
120 total?
So they're
Yes.
functioning already as a school then, I thought it was just a day. Is Mr. Mestre? I think Mr. Mestre is on, there he is.
That is correct.
He could help us out.
Good evening, Cesar Mestre with offices at 8105 Northwest 155th Street, Miami Lakes, Florida. If I can share my screen, please. Okay, this is Little Angels Christian Academy. The address is 6491 West Second Avenue. It's owned, well, it's been a church since 1955. And the variance that you see is because, according to the new code, they're short parking spaces. They have 28 since they've been in inception, but the code requires 76 today. That's the variance part. The conditional use permit and the rezoning you heard is because you need an R3 in order to be able to have a school. And the CUP is for the school to be approved. There has been a daycare there operated by my client since 1992. They purchased and it was already in existence. The owners of this are actually Vivian Gracia. Her husband was Lionel Gracia, a police officer for many years with Hialeah. So they've had this since 1992. Let me show you what's going on. This is the property right here. It's across the street, kind of catty corner to Amelia Earhart Park. And there's only 2 houses that are located on the west end of that block. Other than that, the church building occupies the entire block. This is just showing you that that has major institution land use already. Just another show. And this will show you the diagram of what they are actually doing. This, like many of the other schools, you've heard this before, started off correctly as a Sunday school, was made a daycare since 1992. And we believe since the early 2000s, it was already working as a school of elementary grades. The school and the church will not have overlapping times. So the school will have 18 staff members. Church will have 2 staff members. Church has just an office and 1 person, 2 people there during the week. The building will have a daycare, which will be 3,299 square feet. The school will have 2,485 square feet, and the church will have 3,038 square feet. The parking for the daycare and for the school are sufficient for those 2 uses. We agree, and we will be proffering a declaration of restrictions saying that the times will not overlap, that we will have staggered dismissal at 15-minute groups. One of the recommendations from Deborah was that the parking that you see around the property right here is angle parking. we're going to get rid of that angle parking and we're going to do parallel parking so that there's no danger of people backing out into the street there. There's also some other recommendations or conditions that Deborah has put forth, which will be the drop-off will be in shifts, 25 students per shift. The staff members will be available to supervise the pickup. We will reconfigure the street parking to parallel parking on West Second Avenue and on West 64th Street. There will be a 6-foot concrete wall along the east property line where the houses are to divide us from them. There is some kind of division already, but we'll make sure that that's a CBS concrete wall. There will be bollards placed along the playgrounds facing the street. You can't see them too well because of the trees, but there are playgrounds that we will put bollards on to make sure that there's no issues with the children. Deborah also requested that we put a dumpster enclosure. We'll make sure that we do that. And most importantly, that there's no overlapping hours between the school, the daycare together, and the church. The daycare will operate from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. The school will operate from 8:30 to 3 p.m. And the church will have services on the weekends where the school and the daycare do not operate, and have meetings after 7 p.m. on weekdays if they need it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Caesar. Motion.
I hope that clarifies it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have yes.
I just wanted to ask if I could a procedural question to Mr. Maestri. Do you agree with the director's recommendations?
Yes, absolutely.
And they'll be included in the covenant?
Absolutely, yes. And
Thank
the
you.
covenant will be
Thank you.
proffered before second reading.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mestre. So I had a motion from Councilman Tundidor and I have a second by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Tundidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for October 24th, 2023.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to PZ 8.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-161, to allow a research health center to operate in a 918 square foot bay within an existing strip mall with a maximum of 4 patients per day and 5 staff members. Property located at 3810 West 12th Avenue, Hialeah, Zone C2, Liberal Retail Commercial District, legally described herein, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on first reading. Do I have any council discussion?
Second.
I have a motion by by Councilwoman Casals Munoz and I have a second by Councilmember Tundidor. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Tundidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for October 24th, 2023.
All right. Thank you. Item PZ 9, please.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow 56 parking spaces where 82 parking spaces are required for a proposed new big box pharmacy in contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2189, subsection 7, property located at 845 East Okeechobee Road, Hialeah, Zone C2, Liberal Retail Commercial District, legally described herein, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on first reading. Do I have any council discussion?
And second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz and I have a second by Councilmember Zogby. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for October 24th, 2023.
Do I have any council discussion before we adjourn this evening? All right, so we are adjourning at 9:38. Next council meeting is October